I remember waking up on the sandy beach. There was absolutely nothing around me, and so I knew I needed to find somewhere for shelter, for food, and so I just started walking. It wasn't too far away that there was this giant building, which I thought was the perfect place to ask for some help. Just as I was getting closer though, well, I saw another man heading towards the building where... Oh my god, what in the... What? Why did he just kill that guy? And then he turned and looked at me, and I knew right there and then that I had to run for my life, and so I sprinted for it. There was luckily a little village with a boat right near where he was, and so I was able to escape heading towards the tree line when I thought I'd lost him until I heard the sound of fireworks, and I realized I definitely didn't lose him. Quickly getting to the shoreline, I hid in the trees, only getting a glimpse of the man flying around me. He seemed to stay there for absolutely ages before flying back, almost giving up the search. I made a run into the jungle, hoping for somewhere safe to find, where I did find a little life in the side of a mountain. I thought that if there was anywhere going to be safe to hide, this would be the best spot to go to. It sadly appears that I'm not the first person to find this little cave entrance. There was a bed, there was a hole with, well, I'll let you figure this one out. And there was also a chest with some bones, some stone tools, and a book. Little did I know that I was about to start a 100-day adventure on Skull Island. The journal went over everything that I needed to know for this survival. First things first, it talked about the mobs, how they're more difficult, how they're more powerful, how they take more hits to kill. However, the journal claimed that that wasn't even the worst thing about Skull Island. It was in fact the Skull Hunters, which apparently I'd already met 2 of them. There was the bomber, who apparently loved TNT, would set off an explosion any chance he could. There was the glider, who liked to fly around, was very fast, and would shoot arrows down and drop potions on you. He's apparently a master of hunting his prey, which means I feel really lucky that I got away. There was the Beastmaster, who would run around with every dog he possibly could. Apparently he very rarely fought his own battles, he just let his dog do his dirty work. And then there was the Reaper, who, well, the journal doesn't say much about him other than to avoid him at all costs. The journal also mentioned a side effect of the island, claiming how sometimes he would feel strong, sometimes he would feel weak. It's a really interesting setup to say the least. I couldn't sleep that night. All I could really do was sit and think about the situation I put myself into. However, on day 2 when I came out of the hole, I was thinking that I need to get off the island as soon as possible. To do that, however, I'm gonna need some supplies, some food, some wood, pretty much everything. That Enderman over there can help. Wait a second. To say that this Enderman almost one-shot me should pretty clearly show you how dangerous this island could be. And if it wasn't for the Enderman, this skeleton narrowly missing me could have killed me as well. At least I can hide in as well. You could say I'm well hidden. Alright, that's enough of that. I was able to grab a couple of seeds, and then I led a single chicken back to the hole where I decided till I have food, I'm not really gonna go anywhere on. With only 1 chicken and the plants growing in the cave, I knew the only real option for me to get food was fishing. And so I did fish for a little bit. It's not a massive amount of food that I got, but it was enough to feed me for the time being. And when it began to rain, I decided it would be not a bad idea to actually have another look at the fortress the Skull Hunters had hidden themselves in. Any tactical advantage I could have, I would take. And so in the dead of the night, whilst the rain was there, I snuck close enough with my spyglass. I honestly didn't see that much. There was a little town around, but I couldn't see any villagers. In fact, I couldn't really see anybody. Anyway, after having a quick look around, I realized it was probably time to leave. I don't want to get noticed whilst I have literally nothing on me, so I made a run back to base. Unfortunately, getting back was a massive hassle. There was a lot of difficult and dangerous mobs to deal with, so now I'm learning how dangerous this island can be. Food was becoming a major problem, and so I spent the entirety of day 4 hunting around for food. I did find plenty of pigs and cows, though it did cost me the few stone tools that I had. However, on day 5, I did get a little bit of iron, and I was cooking away. I also decided to make a campfire since how little coal I'd found. But then I started feeling a bit dizzy. Like, super dizzy. I don't know what was going on. I was just hiding away safely in my cave, and then just suddenly it was a click. And I just suddenly felt so incredibly strong. And that's when I realized that my max health had increased quite a lot. And I had another look at the journal where I remembered that it would say how sometimes I'd feel strong as an ox. Is this a side effect of the island, or is this just the game trying to play with me? Well, I'm not going to complain if it gives me more health. It does say it's random though, so as much as I can gain health, there's a chance I could lose health, so I really need to be careful about that one. I hit it out on day 6 where weirdly all of my XP had just vanished. And don't really know what happened there. I just woke up and it was was gone. Exploring around a little bit, I found a mushroom island. There's nothing there, but it's kind of cool. And then I found a village. I was quite cautious at first to go towards the village, but after getting a little closer, I realized there was no dangers. I spoke to the villagers and they told me of the suffering that they have gone through. These skull hunters was apparently ravaging the lands and they begged me for their help. And well, I felt bad for them. I couldn't just leave, considering how much pain the skull hunters were putting these people under. They then offered me a couple of traits. They gave me a shopping list and told me if I could collect the few items on the shopping list that they would give me some items to help them get rid of the skull hunters. I headed back to my little cave where I set up a little supply chest. Wasn't too much that I needed on this list, so I decided, you know what, I may as well see what items they could give me back. I remembered whilst looking around there was some iron in the walls, and so day 7 I head towards it. It's not a massive amount of iron, but it's enough to get me some trades, which I wasn't going to complain about. I also needed a stack of oak wood, and so I started grinding the wood. My axe did break, so I had to head back and make a new one. I also spent the time cooking once I got back. I returned back to the village on day 8, where I gave them the stack of oak logs and the iron block that they requested. In return, they gave me 2 diamonds and 64 arrows, which in my opinion is actually quite a fair trade. By the time I was heading back to the cave, it was night, and so I had to be careful of a couple of mobs, but then I heard it. Firework rockets were being shot off, which was a telltale sign that the glider was nearby. I decided to hide into the tree lines, but I just couldn't see him anywhere. I couldn't see the glider in the sky looking around. But his rockets were close, so I didn't really want to move. I was scared to move. I decided just to be safe that I was going to spend the night in the tree line just until the rockets had disappeared. It was yet again another long night. I returned back on day 9, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't do much now that I was back home. It was an exhausting night, and so I took the day to myself just to compose myself and collect my thoughts. However, I decided to bone meal some crops on day 10, and then I went cocoa bean hunting. One of the things that they wanted on the shopping list was cookies, and right outside the base, because, well, this island is mainly a jungle, there was plenty of cocoa beans for me to get. The only 2 things I need now is 10 milk buckets and emerald block, and both required iron, so it's time for me to head underground. I dug down on day 11. I thought if I could just find a really basic cave, I could find some easy access iron. However, it took me all the way down until Deep Slate to actually find a cave itself. Unfortunately, there was some very strong looking mobs into the Deep Slate cave, and so I decided just for the time being to hold off. My armor situation is pretty much just half leather, half iron, so I'm really not in a situation to take on anything too strong. On day 12, I remember that there was a bunch of bones from the journal guy's, well, skeleton. And so I was thinking, am I really about to use a guy's skeleton to grow some dead crops? Is that ethical? Is that the right thing to do? I mean, he's not using them. Anyway, I got my 20 hay bales and began cooking some pork because I was low on some food. On day 13, I went back to complete the final couple of trades that I had. I was actually quite close to the village when, oh god, it's the Beastmaster. It is time to run for the hills, especially since my health was super low. I originally thought that I lost him in the tree line, but I absolutely did not. Considering his armor and my armor, this is not a fight I could take, and even if I could, there's no way I could win it. So my best bet was to lose him in the jungle somehow. I decided to climb some vines to try and escape, but he was right behind me. I did, however, have a lava bucket, which I was able to slow him and his wolves down with. But again, my health dropped super low, and I really knew that it one wrong step and I could end my time on Skull Island very prematurely when... I only just survived the blind jump. And incredibly, whilst he was charging me, he fell and his wolves began to hunt me down. So I knew I had to run and return back shortly afterwards. And when I did come back, his wolves had calmed. They also seemed sad. Like, there was kind of a calm in the air. I mean, I looked for the Beastmaster, but nothing. And so I went down to where he fell, and just his skull, the Beastmaster's skull was on the floor. He died? Was that it? Did I just really kill a skull hunter that easily? This is amazing. I can't believe it. You know what? Let's get back to base. We'll figure this one out. But I killed a skull hunter. I can't believe it. After doing my mini celebration back on day 14 at base, I remembered, oh yeah, I was heading towards the village, and so I ran back over there, and unfortunately, in my ever-so-present joy, I kinda got a little bit lost. I did find an abandoned house, which had honestly nothing but an anvil in, but I knew there was very few people on Skull Island that I could trust, so it's best for me to leave this place and honestly never come back. On day 15, I found a little bit of fluorine before I made my trades. This time, for the trades, I was able to get 10 obsidian and and a diamond sword, which, man, I'll take that easily. I decided that instead of heading straight home, I was going to search the nearby lands. I mean, you can never know what you could find. There was actually a couple of iron blocks in the floor, along with some abandoned structures. Maybe these were the structures of those who lived on the island before I got here. Anyway, by the time the night came, I made the decision to hold out in the trees. It's better than running through the mobs like the last couple of times. Both times it didn't really end well for me. Whilst heading back on day 16, I found a wolf friend who was tamed in a single bone. I knew that me and him was going to be the best of friends, and so I called him, yep, my only friend on the island, which is kind of sad to think about. I found a jungle temple which had a solid 2 emeralds in, which means I only need 7 more for a block. And I also collected 47 raw iron at this point. So at this point, I don't think I'm going to need any more iron, at least not for the time being. I got back on day 17 with the plenty of iron and 0 coal. I'd started making a little bit of iron armor and tools. And so now that I had a little bit of better armor, I decided it was time for me to re-enter the Deep Slate Cave. On day 18, I headed towards the cave where, oh Jesus, fell straight in, and not gonna lie, I panicked a little bit, especially with the mobs around me. I was easily able to, though, barricade myself into a nice little area in the cave and eliminate the mobs. And you know what my reward was? A single diamond, some lapis, and honestly, that was about it. Successful cave trip, I'd say. It's time to leave. I decided on day 19 it was time for me to take a sneak peek into the Nether, in which case I immediately noped out of there. I was nowhere near ready to enter the Nether yet, especially with how bad the actual spawn was. Instead, I think I'm going to go around murdering a couple of pigs. And when I say a couple, I mean quite a few. It was honestly quite a good time. After exploring a bit more on day 20, I actually saw a blight in the wall. Another resident of the island? Well, it turns out it was a single villager. He told me that he was originally from the village next to the Skull Hunter's fortress and he had to escape. He even offered me some emeralds if I was able to give him some sticks, which, well, I wasn't going to turn that one down. After completing the trades, he told me about the village. He claimed he was able to sneak out, but he had to leave a couple of things behind, and if I could retrieve those couple of things, I could potentially eliminate the Skull Hunters using them. He firstly warned me that enchant tables were uncraftable, and the only way to get them was from the Skull Hunter's base itself. However, he'd have to reactivate it, which would apparently take a little bit of time. He then secondly told me about a secret item in the Skull Hunter's base which contained unlimited power. Now, I don't really know what that means, but he told me if I could sneak in and get it, he could craft it into the ultimate weapon. Taking everything into consideration, by day 21, when I got back to my base, I decided that I was going to go for it. But I wasn't just going to charge in all willy-nilly. I decided that the best way to go about it is to create some invisibility potions. And so I went into the Nether, where unfortunately yet again my levels were reset. I mean, no time to complain. I need to find myself a Nether fortress to get this potion quickly. After searching through the day, I very quickly found a fortress, and honestly getting Blaze Rod wasn't really much of a problem. Unfortunately, there was 0 Nether wart in this fortress, and I searched for quite a while, all day in fact. However, I did find a single chest that had a single piece of Nether wart in, which means if I'm going to want to make potions, the only way for me to do it is by using this Nether wart piece. I'm going to have to grow a lot of Nether wart, aren't I? Lovely. I got back home on day 23, well, if you can call this home, where I planted this single piece of wart. Fortunately, there wasn't really too much now to do but wait for the wart to grow. I did decide to pass some time on day 24 by heading back to the village to do the last trade that I needed to. Enchanted golden apple, you say? I mean, don't mind if I do. Honestly, on day 25, I just went back and just waited for the wart to grow. Until I can get this invisibility potion, there's very little that I can do to get into the fortress. It only took until day 27 for the wart to fully grow, so that one wart gave me 3 back, which I was able to replant and craft into an invisibility potion. On day 28, I decided to go at the dead of the night, and so I waited by the shore until, well, the night hit. I was getting a little nervous because I kept hearing fireworks go off in the distance, but again, I never saw the glider, and when the night hit, I drank up and had a solid 8 minutes to get in, get the stuff I'm looking for, and get out. Honestly, getting an enchant table was fine. There was one actually in the village, and so I was easily able to pick that up. Unfortunately, my villager friend told me the OP item that I'd need to find is something I'd know when I'd see it. And after having a quick look around at honestly nothing, I then saw it. It was a dragon egg. There's nothing else it could be, so I decided to quickly grab it. Unfortunately, it was a bit more of a hassle than I'd take into consideration, but I was able to get the dragon head and get out before anybody even noticed me. By the time the night ended, I got back to my base quite safely, and I also did it on a single heart. Just the usual, I guess. We just snuck into the Skull Hunter's base and survived. No no biggie at all, right? My villager friend gave me some new coordinates to meet up with him, and so on day 29, I headed to him. Apparently, my man likes to move. I gave him the enchant table and the egg. Said the enchant table would take about 20 days to become unlocked, and the egg weapon was going to take much longer, he said. He also gave me a warning to always keep moving on the island, because if I stay in one place for too long, then, well, the Skull Hunters will find me. And so I took his advice. On day 30, I packed up everything that I needed, all of the good stuff at least, and then I started searching for a while where I found a little hole. I will dig it out to make it a little bit bigger, but it's gonna do home for now. I celebrated my new home on day 31 with the classic mild pig slaughter. Nothing like a good bit of pork to really celebrate the whole moving home and stuff. At least that's what I keep telling myself. And then I cooked it all up on day 32. It was an eventful couple of days. Me and Yip went traveling again. I hadn't searched much of the island on this side. I was mainly focused on the other side of the island, and I was just going to see if there's anything that I could find. Apart from some palm trees on a beach, honestly there really wasn't much on this side of the island. 34 was quite a slow day as well. It was thundering, and it turns out that Yip, our little wolfy friend, doesn't like the thunder, and so I dug a nice little area in the side of a mountain and we wait for the rain to pass. He's my only friend. I gotta take care of him. I was traveling a bit more on day 35, and when suddenly fireworks, and there he was, the glider. It's been the first time that I've seen him this entire time since, well, the first day when I ran from him, and I knew that this was a chance to fight him if I wasn't on one heart right now. I retreated a little bit and sat Yip down. I knew that I could probably take him myself considering how easy it was to fight the Beastmaster. I took a couple of shots where I hit him, alerting him to my position. Unfortunately, I didn't know at this point that that was going to be pretty much the second to last shot I got on the glider whilst he was flying around. This was an impossible fight to win because I simply could not hit him. He would rain arrows and potions of harming on me, and all I could do was just shoot and miss. I thought that if I got a high ground situation I could potentially get a better shot on him, but it didn't help at all. You think it would be easy, but just with the speed he was moving with the elytra, I just couldn't touch him. I was really struggling in this fight, and so I decided to try and retreat to hopefully fight another day. If it honestly wasn't for this high health, I honestly think I was dead at this point. So I'm just really hoping that I don't drop to low health. Or do I? I've been thinking about this for a while. The book said that the island had a side effect of making people weak. And as far as I'm aware, the Skull Hunters are just people, right? So if the random health affects me, would it also affect the hunters? Well, I realized that if my health dropped significantly, wouldn't the hunters' health drop significantly as well? And that's when I came up with the most crazy plan I've ever had. If I could get on top of the tallest mountain, just stand still as sort of a bait situation, and let the glider charge directly at me, I would only have to hit him once to take him out. It was high risk, high reward. There was no guarantee it was going to work, but I can't hit him at the moment. I can't beat him at the moment. And so I waited for my health to drop to a single heart. And the glider goes down. Thank God as well. I did not think I was going to be able to pull that one off, but there we go. The glider's down. That is 2 of the full Skull Hunters beat. I grabbed Yip and we went to hide away for the night to celebrate our second kill on the Skull Hunters. After killing the glider and adding his skull to the wall on day 36, I was honestly feeling super pumped. I mean, 2 hunters that I beat. Yeah, technically I beat them by gimmicks, whether because of the effects of the island or fall damage, but the point was, I killed 2 of the Skull Hunters. I was on a roll here. My next job was to gear up a little more. Now, I know my villager friend agreed to meet with me on day 40 to give me the enchant table back. So for the time being, let me dig down a little bit where I found another Deep Slate Cave where I walked away with a grand total of 4 diamonds. What a time to be alive. Once I got back up on day 38, I remembered that I had 5 diamonds already. And so I decided to make a helmet and some boots. Now it's time for me to leave the cave and oh my god! Base was trapped? Well, was that the bomber? Did the bomber leave a trap for me just on the outside of my base? Unfortunately, there's no time for questions. It's time for me to set up a new base, which is unfortunately going to be a trend for the rest of this video, isn't it? But I have no time for trends. On day 39, I headed towards the meeting point with my villager friend. On day 40, well, my villager friend was here. I should really give him a name rather than just villager friend. A fully working enchant table. However, my villager friend warned me that once I place the enchant table, if I pick it up again, it won't work. So once I place it down, I can't pick it back up. So I better pick a good spot to set it up, and I realized the best spot would probably be at the village that I was making the trades from earlier. He also warned me that it was going to take another about 50 plus days to complete the ultimate weapon, and to completely avoid the Reaper until that happens. Like I'm going to charge the Reaper, what sort of stupid idea would that be? I got back to the village on day 41. I dug a nice little secret area underneath one of the little house garden things, I don't really know what you'd call it. And remember the well that I found all that days away? Well, that had some lapis blocks in it. So I was able to enchant all of my gears just on the basics. And just as I was about to leave, the villagers offered me another trade. All of these enchanted books for another set of trades. A stack of coal, 10 gold blocks, and 30 leather. It would turn all of my gear to tier 2, which I thought was a really good idea. And so I headed off into the world looking for some cows. I was murdering cows on day 42. I was also murdering horses too, and surprisingly, a lot of chickens, like so many chickens. I actually stopped on day 43 to grind some gravel. Since I have all the feathers needed, I do need a lot of arrows. Once I broke my second shovel grinding gravel, I decided it was time to go back to the cow slaughter. And on day 44, I had 30 leather obtained. I returned back to the base, I started cooking the beef and the chicken, and then I began digging down because, well, I needed the coal and the gold. Honestly, the gold wasn't a problem. I only needed 90. And on day 40, I found a massive Deep Slate cave. Sadly, there wasn't any coal in Deep Slate. There's never coal in Deep Slate, so I have to head up a little bit to see if I can find some. I first wanted to focus on the gold though, so on day 46 I got the remainder that I needed and then started going for some coal. On day 47 there was a lot of coal in the walls on this side of the island, so I was easily able to get a stack of coal by just honestly mining it. I packed up everything I needed and I headed towards the village to complete the trade. Day 48 I completed the trades, and thanks to the books I got protection 2 on all my armor, sharpness 2 on the sword, and power 2 on the bow. Oh yeah, also efficiency 2 on the pickaxe, but that's not that important. I spent 49 and 50 traveling around the island just a little bit more when I found a nice little secret area. I found a chest full of TNT, and I had a plan. If the bomber wants to set me up a trap, what if I set up the bomber a trap? We'll see if we could do anything with this nice ravine that I found on day 51. After completing the trap on day 52, I started having a look around for some wolves. Maybe if I can get a pack of sorts. I wonder if there's a joke I can make here. However, after searching around for a couple of days, here we are on day 55, where I honestly gave up. Time for me to find a new home and get some sleep. I remember waking up on day 56 and I felt great. It was a nice, comfy bed. Good morning, Yip. How you doing? Oh, that sun is nice and bright. Oh, hello there, Skull Hunter. Oh, boy, is it a... Maybe he didn't see me. Oh, he saw me! He saw me! Another trap he set up to attack me. I had to run out the forest as quickly as I could, narrowly escaping the explosions. However, luckily for me, the ravine that I set up with all the bombs in was only a couple of 100 blocks away, and so I made a run for it. Pulling off an epic MLG water bucket into the ravine, I jumped into my trap and closed it off, baiting the hunter to come into the base with me. He charged in like the moron he was. I ate my enchanted golden apple, lit the TNT, and dug and just let the explosions go off. And then it went silent, and then I went back up. The bomber was gone. For the first time I realized that this was too easy, right? I've just killed 3 of the skull hunters with very little issue. Like, how is these guys been like ravaging the lands for so long? I don't understand. Anyway, I mean, that's 3 hunters dead. I just have to kill the last one, but oh my god. Yip, my dog. I returned back to the explosion site on day 57, but Yip was, well, he was gone. I don't think he was going to survive the explosion. I had little faith, but it was sad to get my confirmation. I made him a little graveyard from where the explosion was, and I know it's not much, but Yip, he was a good friend. He was a good boy. He will be missed. Anyway, let's move on. I went back to the caves on day 58 because I knew that I needed to get myself some diamond armor, and I spent the next few days hunting in the diamond layer caves. Fun fact for you, did you know that Deep Slate caves give like 0 diamonds? Because I know that. It took me all the way until day 64 to get the full diamond that I needed. An incredibly long time considering everything else that I've been doing on this island. I began heading back to the village on day 65, where Withers? No. No! Oh my god! No! Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I have to run. I cannot fight 2 Withers by myself. This has got to be the work of the Reaper, right? There's poor villagers. What do they do? But then I realized that if the Skull Hunter, yeah, that's right, Skull Hunter, because there's only one of them left. If that Reaper wants to play games with me and the villagers that have helped me so far, I've taken out 3 of the 4 Skull Hunters. Let me take out the Reaper. I don't need any OP weapon. I'm going to go and take out the Skull Hunter. I'm going to go take out the Reaper. I got to the Skull Hunter's home on day 66, where I was actually greeted by the Reaper himself. He was standing there with no armor, no anything, and for the first time, one of the Skull Hunters actually spoke to me.
It's about time you got here.
I said, listen man, I took out 3 of your henchmen, I'm gonna take you out for what you did to that village.
Please. You know how often those idiots die? I can just respawn them in 34 days.
34 days from now would be day 100. Is that the point? The hunters can get respawned every 100 days? I knew I couldn't let that happen, and the clouds darkened. I knew now I had to attack. So I pulled my bow and he vanished? Huh? Alright, let's stay calm. He couldn't have gone far. I just keep having it. There he is! He's gone again? Alright, okay. Just calm down. I don't know what's going on here, but if I just keep calm. Oh my god! Alright, he's definitely playing with me at this point. The problem is, how can I attack him if I can't even see him? And then it got worse. Creepers started spawning on my location. Is he spawning creepers in? Is that what's happening here? And then it happened. He teleported right in front of me. He looked me dead in the eyes. And then everything I had just vanished. I was completely, my armor, my tools, my everything was just gone. And I realized how much trouble I was in that moment. And then he started putting on Netherite armor, and I think we can all agree it was now time to leave, and so I made a run for it. However, as I was trying to swim away, he started flying after me, raining arrows, trying to take me out, and I was scared that even one arrow could kill me here. I had legitimately nothing, and as I was trying to swim away, suddenly I was in the sky. I was very lucky that he teleported me right above a water source, when a creeper exploded right on me, just narrowly avoiding me so I didn't take any damage. However, I could use this to my advantage, and so I hid in the trees, where the Reaper just flew straight past me. Did he think I died? Did he miss me? I'm not good. You know what? There's no time for questions. I jumped off the tree and I booked it in the opposite direction. It was a complete and utter failure, the fight, but at least I am able to survive to fight another day. It was day 67 where I felt confident that I got away, but at what cost? I had nothing, and in 33 days, if we were to believe him, then the other Skull Hunters were just going to respawn like nothing. At least I could survive the night for now, but I realized on day 68 that it was over, wasn't it? I mean, I had nothing to fight him back with, and even if I was able to survive, was this OP weapon that the villager Rend, was he really going to be able to let me take him out with it? It's over, isn't it? You know what? No, I'm not about to give up now. I need to get myself some diamond armor. let's do a rematch. It was on day 96 where I headed back towards the fortress. My thought process was this, that at this point it's about slowing him down. I knew that the ultimate weapon was almost ready, but I also knew that it probably wasn't going to work whilst he was at his base. He felt so powerful there, and so if I could fight him dead on, then I could lure him out of the base and then potentially drive him to the mountain where the villager friend is currently waiting with the weapon. It's an incredibly dangerous plan, but I knew if I could buy just 5 minutes, I could take him out. I got there in front of the Reaper, and this time we didn't say a word to each other, we just looked at each other dead on. I knew I couldn't beat him, I knew that I couldn't kill him, but I knew I could aggravate him, and so I took out my bow and shot my first arrow. And honestly, the fight begun, and it was clear that despite his OP gear, thanks to the wolves that I had, I knew for a fact that I was actually having the advantage here, until he vanished again, only to appear on top of the fortress where my wolves couldn't get him. So I decided to charge into the fortress itself to try and get the wolves up there, which he clearly didn't want me in there for whatever reason, and so he lured me back outside. He was doing major damage to myself and the wolves, and every time I was ever doing damage or my wolves were doing damage to him, he would just simply vanish and find a new spot to attack me from. Quite honestly, it was almost impossible to fight him because every time I was doing okay, he would just attack me straight away again. However, I knew that when he started charging me with a sword that I had aggravated him enough to get him away from the fortress, and so I made a run to the mountains, which luckily he did follow me for. I was able to quickly get to the shore thanks to the dolphin's aid, and then the rain began to pour, which made his sword and bow, which both had the flame enchantments, massively nerfed. However, my escape into the jungle was scary, because all I could hear was arrows being shot and dogs being killed. But I knew that if I stopped and tried to fight him, all of this was going to be for naught. And that's when I saw it. The mountain. I quickly climbed the mountain with him chasing right behind me. The chest, Haven, the chest, my villager friend said, before being shot and taken out. And there he was, right in front of me. The rain had stopped. He cleared my inventory again, and I made my run for it. I opened the chest. It had a trident in it. Fine. I knew I only had one shot, and so I got up. I threw it. I hit him. Everything froze. He started to shake. He started to shake quite badly, and I knew it was time to get off the mountain. And as I jumped and landed in the water, all I could hear was explosions from the top of the mountain. What was it over? I climbed back up to the top of the mountain and everything was gone. The mountain had been destroyed. My dogs, the villager, everything had gone. But most importantly, the Reaper. I think the Reaper was killed. It was over. After 96 days, it was over. I went back to the fortress on day 97. For the record, my health was now normal. I wasn't randomly changing health, I was just at the standard 10 hearts. And it was almost peaceful. I decided to have a quick look around the fortress from where I found the command blocks. It suddenly made sense how the Reaper got all of his power. If he was able to use command blocks to put himself into creative and stuff, then maybe that explains how he was so powerful. Unfortunately, in my current state, there was no way for me to actually destroy the command blocks, so I made the decision to just cover them with sandstone. If I hide them away, then hopefully nobody will ever find them again. At least that's what I'm hoping for. And after speaking to the local villagers, they were honestly so grateful for the work that I'd done to eradicate the Skull Hunters from their home. And I knew at that point it was over. I stayed until day 100 just to make sure the Skull Hunters wouldn't come back. And honestly, they didn't. I knew that my time was done here. And so, after saying my goodbyes, I grabbed the boat and headed off the island to my next adventure. Skull Island was difficult to survive on, and the hunters were deadly, but I can leave knowing that I put this island into a state of peace. I thank you so much for watching the video. Take care, everybody.